Now that my skeleton is all set up, it's about time to have the skeleton connect to the joints. For this, I am going to deselect all my stuff, and I'm going to move over from the skeleton menu into the skin menu. There are a lot of things in the skin menu, but the only ones that we're really going to care about today are bind skin and unbind skin. We will cover skin weights, but not in this project. This project is set up so that we won't have to worry about skin weighting. All we need to care about is binding and unbinding. Bind skin, you always want to run through the option box. Every single time. There are a lot of options in bind skin, and every single one of them will do something a little bit different. So, for example, this is the default skin bind option, and I'm not going to say it's bad, there's nothing wrong with it, but what we're going to do today is we're going to become a little bit smarter about what we want to do. For example, this object is an ear. I have some joints that are ear joints. This joint, and this joint are the joints that correspond to this ear. I don't need any other joints to affect this object, so when I do my bind, instead of binding to the joint hierarchy, I am going to bind only to selected joints, and that way I have fewer joints to affect this object. That makes me so clever, doesn't it? Yes, it does. I feel smart every time. Every time. So bind to is really important, and you'll see that there are three options. There's joint hierarchy, which will do all of the joints in your structure. You almost never want that. Selected joints will allow you to pick your joints and then bind them to your object. And then there's object hierarchy, which will bind objects, and it does weird things, and we're going to ignore it. The bind method is set to closest distance. I've got options here too, closest in hierarchy, heat map, and geodesic voxel. In descending order, they go from dumbest, which is closest distance, down to smartest, which is geodesic voxel. The smarter the bind method, the more complex it is and the longer it's going to take. Geodesic voxel and heat map are fairly recent additions to Maya, and they both have limitations. Heat map has a very specific polygon limit. You can only have a certain number of faces in your model to run a heat map bind. Both heat map and geodesic voxel will fail on a model with bad topology, so your edge flow is really important for them. They will sometimes return a better result, and as we get more complicated and smarter with our binds, this may become important. However, for the moment, I will leave this set to closest distance because all I'm doing is an ear. And it's simple, and I can get away with using a very stupid bind method. The skinning method is set to classic linear. We will be working with a classic linear skinning method this entire semester. A classic linear skinning method allows each vertex to possess weights from 0 to 1. The amount of weight will never exceed a value of 1. Dual quaternion will allow me to exceed a value of 1 and have things weighted to 300 or 400%, which is a little bit weird and sometimes can be really nice. A lot of professional binders will use this because there are circumstances, like, let's say, fabric rigs, where you want that. But we're not professional riggers, we are just learning how to rig, so classic linear is going to make much more sense for us. The final option, weight blended, will allow you to choose on a per vertex basis whether you want things to be classic linear or dual quaternion. So yeah, we're going to stick with classic linear. It's going to be the simplest one, and it'll get us through this entire semester with absolutely no problems. The only other thing that we really care about here is max influences. This is the maximum number of joints that can influence every vertex in the model. It's set to 5 by default, and 5 is really high. I'm going to take this and set it down to 3. I mean, I've only got 3 joints in this selection here, but this will help keep me from going crazy when I do get to weight painting. So every time I do a bind, I like to set this down a little bit. Everything else is fine at the default, and if I hit apply here, now when I come over and I select, let's say, this middle ear joint, and I rotate it, you'll see that my ear does a cute little wave. And if I click on the ear base joint, now the whole ear can flop. Oh, I'm so happy I made a bind. I'm going to use these same settings for this entire model. So once I've got my bind skin set up, I just have to go through and make sure that my selections are in order. If you're using your outliner, which I do recommend, one thing you can do is use the outliner. In the outliner, I can select multiple objects with the Control or the Command key. So I'm going to click the right ear tip joint, then hold down Control, select the middle and the base. You see how they turn this bright blue color? That means that each one is individually selected. This dark blue color up here tells me that children of this object are selected, so I want to be looking for this bright blue. I will hold down my Control key one more time and select the right ear because that is the geometry I want these joints to affect. Then I can go ahead and hit apply. Then I can repeat this process. The root, the top, and the bottom, I want to affect the body. So if I look here, you'll see it gets really confusing because all the joints are white. But here in the outliner, the root, top, and bottom joints are bright blue. The body is bright blue. I can hit apply. And now the top joint, let's just move it around. The top joint affects the top of the ball. The bottom joint affects the bottom of the ball. And the middle joint, well, that selects everything. That's how root joints work. The last thing I've got is the tail. Here next to the tail there's this little plus sign. If I shift click on the plus sign, I can open it up and get all the joints. So I'll click on the tail end and then hold down my Control key, select all the other joints, and then finally select the tail object. When I hit apply, beautiful! My skin is now bound. To test this one out, I'll come back into my outliner, and again I'm going to select the tail joints in order. I'll start with the tail end joint and then Control select my whole way up. When I get to the tail begin joint, I'm going to move over into my rotate tool, and now I should see this lovely little curve happening in the tail. Again, all I did there was select the joints in order, starting with 6 and then holding down Control and clicking up the hierarchy. When I got to the begin joint, that will let me rotate each of them along their own set of local rotation axes as their parent rotates, giving me this nice little curve. So I will pull up my bind skin option box again so you can see the bind options that I'm using. We're using selected joints, closest distance, and a max influence of 3. And your big job is just to make sure that you've got the ear joints and the ear object selected. Do each object one at a time, select its joints, select the object, and bind your skin. When you're all set, great! We are all ready to move on and start making some controls.